Welcome! Today we're diving into the opening chapter of Munshi Premchand's classic novel, Gaban. It's a really gripping story about how a seemingly simple desire for jewelry can spiral into this complex and ultimately destructive web of deceit. This one line from the groom's mother, Jadeshwari, pretty much says it all. It's not just a casual comment, it's a perfect snapshot of the intense social pressure these families were under. A family's honor, their entire reputation, was all about public perception. And this obsession with keeping up appearances is what drives the whole story, which all kicks off with a simple childhood wish. So our story doesn't start with some grand deception. Nope. It begins with the simple, innocent fascination of a young girl named Jalpa. She sees this beautiful, but, pretty cheap glass necklace being sold by a street vendor, and she is just instantly captivated. Now, this ornament, the Chandrahar, becomes way more than just a piece of jewelry for her. From that day on, it becomes the single most important object in her world. It's an idea, it's an aspiration, and it was planted in her mind when she was just a little kid. And her parents? Well, they only fueled this obsession. Her dad would bring her little trinkets and jewels instead of toys. And when she'd ask for a real Chandrahar, just like the one her mother had, her mom would just smile and promise her that a beautiful one would one day come from her in-laws. So right there, this ultimate gift gets tied to the idea of marriage. Okay, so let's fast forward about 7 years. Jalpa is a young woman now, and that desire for the Chandrahar, it's stronger than ever. She's about to be married to a young man named Ramanath, whose father, Dayanath, is a court clerk. And while Dayanath is a decent, honest guy, his financial situation is, well, it's a far cry from what Jalpa has been led to imagine. And this is really where the central conflict starts to brew. On one side, you have the father, Dayanath. He's a man of principle, lives within his means. And on the other side, you've got his son, Ramanath, who has literally built an entire fake persona based on borrowed clothes and just blatant lies about how wealthy his family is. Think about that for a second. 50 rupees. That was the family's entire income for the month, and it was barely enough to support 5 people. And yet here's Ramanath painting this picture of immense wealth for his future bride, a fantasy that is about to have some really dire consequences. So how do you maintain an illusion that big? Well, this is where it all becomes catastrophic. Pushed by his wife, Jageshwari, and that crushing weight of social expectation, Dayanath spends 3,000 rupees, that's 60 times his monthly salary, on wedding gifts, and it's all on credit. It's just a massive gamble to make a grand impression. But here's the kicker. For Jalpa, all of this, it's totally meaningless, because the one thing she has waited for since she was a little girl, the symbol of all her dreams, isn't among the gifts. In her mind, that one omission overshadows everything else, and it turns this spectacular wedding into a bitter, bitter failure. The wedding might be over, but for Ramanath's family, the real trouble is just getting started. That bill for a mountain of jewelry, it's now due, and they have absolutely no way to pay for it. So the jeweler is literally at the door, demanding the rest of his money, 1,500 rupees. Dayanath is completely trapped. He can't pay, and the threat of being publicly humiliated is just hanging over them, ready to shatter the family's carefully built reputation. Ramanath is totally cornered. I mean, what can he possibly do? He can't admit the truth. To do that would mean revealing he's a total fraud to the one person he's trying so desperately to impress. The entire foundation of their new marriage is his lie. Trapped by his own lies, Ramanath decides the only way out is to commit an even more devastating one. In the middle of the night, while his new wife is sleeping, he decides he's going to steal her jewelry to pay off the family's debt. So he sneaks into the room, heart pounding, and grabs the jewelry box. But just as he does, Jalpa starts to wake up. So what does he do? He yells, "Thief! Thief!" turning his own crime into a fake burglary. The shock of seeing her precious jewels gone is just too much for Jalpa, and she faints. So in the aftermath, the family makes a very calculated decision. They're not going to report the theft to the police. Why? Because an investigation would bring way too much scrutiny, and it would risk exposing their actual financial situation. It traps every single one of them inside Ramanath's lie. Jalpa is just completely shattered. She sinks into this deep depression. She won't eat, she won't talk to anyone, and this grief, it's not just about the money. For her, it's about her dream being destroyed. This coldness she now feels toward Ramanath comes from this painful belief that if he really loved her, he would do something to fix it. And this just shows you how one lie leads to another, doesn't it? To deal with Jalpa's misery and keep up the facade, Ramanath, the guy who was always idle, is now forced to actually find a job and play the part of the wealthy provider he pretended to be. But even when he's trying to make things right, he just can't help himself. He gets a modest job, 30 rupees a month, but he tells Jalpa it pays 40. He describes it as this high-powered position with all these opportunities for bribes. He's just digging himself deeper and deeper into his own trap. You see how this is just snowballed, right? What started as a simple boast to impress a girl has now become this dangerous, escalating cycle. Every lie needs a bigger one to support it, and this avalanche of deceit has become the actual foundation of their new marriage. This moment is so telling. Her own mother, hearing about what happened, sends her personal Chandrahar as a gift, but Jalpa rejects it. This shows us it's not just about owning the necklace. For her, it has to be a symbol of her husband's love and his success. It has to come from him. Charity just feels like an insult. And that leaves us with this final, haunting question. Ramanath is completely trapped in a world he made up, and Jalpa's love depends on that world being real. It forces us to wonder, when a bond is built on such a fragile illusion, can it ever possibly hope to survive the inevitable weight of the truth?